Hi, and welcome to Modern Teen Therapy. I'm Janet Idgett. I'm an adolescent psychologist practicing outside of Philadelphia. So today I have three ideas for helping your teen therapy clients open up in session. And the thing is, they're not things that you're specifically doing to your client, or they're not tricks or gimmicks. They're actually changes within yourself that you can make so that you as a clinician, as a therapist, become more appealing to open up to. Okay. So here's the first one. The first one is to avoid ever saying that you're trying to get them to open up, because it just sounds really one sided and intrusive. I mean, kids know if they're in therapy, they know what they're there for and they know what therapy's about and talking. But one person opening up to another, it's not, in my view, a conversation. It's like a kind of like a confessional, or it can feel like one to a teenager. What I look for and try to get going is a two-way reciprocal exchange where the client's words are, of course, are going to be more personal and revealing than mine, but I am in the conversation and I show up fully. And I want them to feel that a genuine emotional responsiveness on my part so that they feel accompanied on this journey. Here's the second idea. Has to do with changing the question from how do I get this kid to open up to me in session to, as a therapist, how can I show up as informed and interesting enough myself so that this kid actually wants to talk with me? This changes everything. Changes everything about the quality of this therapeutic relationship, as well as of the ensuing therapy too. We don't learn this in graduate school. We spend so much time trying to, learn how to get kids to open up. I don't think we spend enough time trying to figure out who each of us is a person. How can we come forward in a way that kid actually wants to talk with us? Okay. Here's a third tip. Removing any pressure your client has or is feeling in the beginning of session to get the conversation started. Okay. The way I think about it, that's our job. And by learning how to make it like easy and kind and maybe even kind of witty, almost like a cocktail chatter with a new client, that's a great skill to have. And it helps kids settle, relax into a conversation with you that feels organic and unstrained. It sounds like a regular, real conversation. I think when we depart from the rhythms and tones and cadence of regular conversation, then kids thinking, oh, this weird talking like this, it's stiff, it's therapy. And then therapist recognizes it and you're both self-conscious. It's just, and then it just stops. But the more that we can replicate the qualities of conversation that are inherent in regular conversation, non-therapy conversation, I think the better it is for kids to be able to join us and keep the conversation going. Here's an example, like, of just silly banter, but it goes somewhere. Okay, I have all these snacks in my office, and so if a kid takes the Captain Crunch berry cereal bar, I might confess and say, tell them, oh my God, I eat Captain Crunch for breakfast all the time. And then I'll swear him to secrecy. It's really embarrassing for me to say, but yeah, I do, and we can't tell anybody. So, we're kind of laughing about that. We go on to something else. Maybe the kid's taken liking to my pit bull Harper, who comes with me every day to the office. And I might then share her backstory, okay, which is kind of interesting, and talk about different dogs I've had over the years. But then I ask what they have at home in terms of pets. So then it's like, well, okay, who in your family picked the type of dog that you were all going to get? And then I might wonder if it's like if I'm picking up that there's sort of almost a little bit of an authoritarian quality in the family, or that parent is very dominant, or that the kids don't really get a voice in something. Like, let's say the kid says, I wanted to name him, Spot, but my dad insisted that we're going to call him Fluffy. And I'll say, hey, did you guys talk about it? Oh, no. Like when my dad says that, like, that's just it. And so I'll say, well, I'm curious, like, did you have was there a different breed you would have preferred? What happened to your vote? And now we're talking about, who voices in this family. I might then say, are there other times when your vote about something taking place at home gets lost in the mix or is just dismissed out of hand? And maybe they say, yeah, actually, blah, blah, blah. And I'll say, well, what happened there? Now, my client and I, we're having a conversation. It's good and it's real and it's engaging, and it stands a good chance of morphing kind of, into another bigger conversation about being in that family, what it's like to have a voice, to not have a voice, to have voice to squash. I mean, there's a million different directions you could go. But that's this idea of sequencing the questions toward something meaningful in a very intentional way. That's how you get soft topics like, Captain Crunch Berries, cereal bars, and dogs into something more meaningful. I think the more relaxed we can be in our own skin talking to our teenage clients, the more naturally we'll draw them into conversations and get the engagement we're looking for. I think most of these kids, whether they came under duress or not, a lot of them really do want our help. They know they need it. But we need to offer services that aren't awkward, that don't feel weird or make them self-conscious, because that's often what's associated with therapy for teenagers, and that's probably why they hate it so much, or hated it, which happens to be one of the most popular articles I ever wrote, is Why Teens Hate Therapy. It was in Psychotherapy Networker, and you can find it on my website or online. Anyway, I think it's different now because of the youth mental health movement has done so much, like in the last 7-8 years, and especially since COVID. Kids are so much more comfortable talking about mental health, their own mental health. They talk about their therapy, they talk about their therapists. So it is different. I think also therapists have changed their techniques and style, and more relaxed with kids and more informal in general, which makes it, less awkward and less hateable.